Welcome to the Private Practice Startup, where we inspire you from startup to mastery. We chat with entrepreneurs, experts in the mental health and business arenas, and successful private practitioners to give you the tools needed to make your dream practice a reality. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, and so much more. Here are your hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
Startup Nation, welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Katie Lemieux, and not next to me, but online is my co-host, Dr. Kate Campbell.
What's up, everybody? Good to be here.
We are glad you are here today. If you are brand new to our podcast, welcome. We are opening our arms and inviting you into our Startup Nation superhero family because you are a difference maker and superhero. In fact, we actually have a special gift for you. We would love for you to head over to our website, privatepracticestartup.com, head over to the resources tab and grab your attorney-approved customizable HIPAA form. If you're in private practice, guess what, guys? You need attorney-approved paperwork. So let us gift that to you for free. And of course, if you are a loyal Startup Nation superhero member already, we want to welcome you back. We hope you guys joined us last week for last week's show with Carrie Nola talking about scarcity proofing your private practice. She shared some amazing questions that's going to get you thinking about where you're feeling scarcity and then how to overcome scarcity by having an abundance mindset. Today's yes, Katie Reed, Katie Cubed on today's show. We're also continuing the scarcity conversation as we're going to be talking about overcome your scarcity mindset to uplevel your income and your life. So I love this and I'm so excited to dive into this as well because we know that you guys have been needing more and more mindset work because the mindset really precedes having a flourishing business and private practice. A lot of times we want to jump to strategy and think that the strategy is going to create it, which in fact, it does, but if that's not working, sometimes there's a little mindset issue. But you guys already know that because you're awesome clinicians. So before we dive into today's topic, Kate would like to share a Startup Nation superhero shout out and a note from our sponsor.
Yes. Okay. Today's Startup Nation superhero shout out is for Christine Miller. She says, Kate and Katie, along with their guests, provide valuable information that you can't find anywhere else. They give you relatable and practical advice for anyone looking to improve their work in mental health and private practice. Their podcast gives access to essential business and marketing tips. Thank you, Christine. We hope you are on your way to building your dream practice and really thriving. And we appreciate the love. And if you guys want to be featured in our Startup Nation shout out, definitely go ahead and give us a review. We love to hear your feedback and always look for ways to enhance the show and ensure that we're really giving you the quality that you're wanting, the content that you're wanting. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that. And let's take a quick break for our sponsor for today's episode, which is Therapy Notes. When it comes to keeping your practice organized, you want software that's not only simple, but the best. And that's why we recommend Therapy Notes. Their platform lets you manage notes, claims, scheduling, and more. Plus, they offer amazing unlimited phone and email support. So when you have a question, they're here to help. To get started with the practice management software trusted by over 60,000 professionals, go to therapynotes.com and start your free trial today. If you enter the promo code PPS, as in Private Practice Startup, they will give you 2 months for free to try it out. And if you want to listen to more about Therapy Notes and their platform, we had a great episode with Brad Pleiner, which was episode 54, and you can find the link for Therapy Notes and that episode in our show notes. Without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. We have the trifecta of the Katies. Hey, Katie, what's up? Thanks for joining us here in Mindset March. Hashtag
it's
Mindset
perfect.
March.
I love it. It's perfect timing. I love it. And yes, I'm so excited to finally be in a virtual room with the other two Katies. There's a lot of us in this little industry right now named Katie. It always cracks me up. But yes, it's great to join you guys. I love coming on. I love talking about mindset stuff. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm also the Therapreneur coach. So I love helping therapists not only grow their practices, but then outgrow their practices. Maybe they're adding coaching or courses or retreats or business consulting like you ladies do, any of those things. And so I love helping people find their way through that world. And inevitably, we come up against our mindset blocks, right? Because the bigger we're growing and the more things we're doing and the more public we're getting, it's completely inevitable that you are going to hit all your old baggage and it's all going to come circling back up and around. So, you might have talked about this already this month. I was just going to address briefly, like, what is scarcity mindset? What does that mean? And I'm guessing some people have heard this listening to your previous podcasts, but to me, it means kind of coming at life from that fear-based mentality that says, there's not enough, there won't be enough, I definitely won't get my share of the pie. If you get more of the pie, I get less of the pie. And I think for a lot of therapists, the opposite, whereas if I get more of the pie, I feel guilty because now you have less of the pie. And I think so many of us in the helping profession, we actually deal with guilt kind of on both sides of the spectrum, right? Like we're worried about having too much, we're worried about having too little. It goes both ways for us. And so that is that scarcity mindset. Now, this is certainly not to be confused with, like, if you are starving on the street, no one should be walking by you going, oh, that's just your scarcity mindset. Like you should really work on that. Like that's not what we're talking about. But what we're talking about is that situation where you're maybe a pretty typical, middle income type person in America. And yet you're living in constant fear. You're penny pinching. You won't spend on your practice. You won't spend on yourself. You're just going around with that attitude that I kind of need to live in this fear all the time. Now, I don't know about you guys. For me, sometimes this shows up as like me being very reasonable. Do you guys resonate with that at all? Like I remember one so clearly. I was living in Taos, New Mexico, this small town up in the mountains. I needed to find a new apartment. I was looking around at apartments. This older woman who I knew a little bit just through some other people, she said, I've got a room in my apartment, and it was half the price of anything else I had seen. Every bit of intuition in my body was like, don't do it. Like, run. This will not be a good roommate situation. Like, don't do it. And yet my scarcity mindset kicked in and was like, Katie, you need to be responsible here. This is half the price of anything. Like you need to be responsible with your money. And so I made that decision totally based in fear. Of course, 6 months later, miserable. I was looking for a new apartment to live in. But that is often how it shows up for me, is that like, well, I'm just being reasonable. I don't know about you guys. I'm from Chicago. Like I'm from the Midwest, and I hear this about the South too, that there's almost a contest often of like, how cheap did you get something? Like, how much of a sale did you get it on? It's not like if you're in LA or something and it's like, ooh, you're a fancy Rolls Royce, you must have spent a lot on that. In the Midwest, if you tell somebody like you like their shirt, they're like, oh, $3 clearance TJ Maxx. Like that's the badge of honor, right? And so when you grow up with that, you tend to perpetuate it no matter what your actual financial situation is. And what I see happening all the time for therapists is just that really starts to impact their income, their happiness, just how they're feeling about life day in and day out. How do you guys see it showing up?
Katie, you just triggered a memory in me that I'm just like laughing about that I really haven't thought about in a long time. Now, it's funny, I don't know where this comes from, but I remember being in grade school. So I don't know what grade I was in, maybe third grade, but Sunday mornings, I would wake up and I would get the paper. I'm a third grader. I would cut out coupons in the paper, and then I would add them all up about the money I was going to save. But I don't know, but I wasn't purchasing groceries. But it's just funny just thinking about like, well, number one, where did I learn that? How did I feel? But I felt excited about the coupons, like saving money and things like that. It's just interesting, like what you triggered in me. So I just wanted to share that.
That's awesome.
I still cut coupons today. I love that.
My mom is actually the queen of like announcing to the whole world whatever she's purchasing, how deep of a discount she got it on.
Yes.
Every single thing she buys, she's like, but I got it on such a big discount. You're not going to believe what I got it. She advertises that to the world for everybody. And so that is definitely ingrained in me as well. Sometimes I'm like, gosh, did that just really come out of my mouth? They sound just like my mother.
Yes, exactly. Oh, just the other day, my kids had these really cute little Han Solo and Chewbacca jackets. And literally everybody's like, that's so cute. And I'm immediately like, I got it on clearance for $12. I'm like, I have to tell you. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, but there is so often for all of us that feeling of like, yay, I won. If I barely spent any money, like I beat the store, all those types of things. But the way they start to come up for us in our practices is that we tend to do things on the cheap. Maybe we tend to get like the cheapest website we can get, try to squeak by with paperwork that's not lawyer approved, little things like that get a little bit nerve-wracking when you're running a private practice, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I see that come up for people, and I see it like crazy as people begin doing a little bit more marketing. Because all of a sudden, when you're stepping out in front of other people and you're saying, this is me, I'm this type of therapist in this town, and this is who I see, and this is what I work with, you're suddenly opening yourself up. You're being much more vulnerable. You're open to more criticism that way, and people's mindsets kick in hard. And so for me, I truly believe that in order to change your scarcity mindset over time, definitely for me, there have to be some daily things in place and then some bigger picture things in place. So I would love to tell you some of the things that I do and that I love doing with my clients. The first one for me is really notice, like, what are the things that trigger you? What are the things that make you get that little like, oh, I can't spend that on myself, or, oh, that's too much money, or what triggers your fear to come flying up? What triggers your scarcity to come flying up? What are those things that are your little scripts that are totally going to get you all the time? And part of noticing very often is actually as simple as reframing. And so when I say that, I was working with a coach that I work with. We were having some conversation about money. I don't remember what it was about, but she said, well, what would be to you like a status symbol? Like, how do you know somebody's rich? And I just went, a Tesla. Now, I'm not really a car person. I don't really care about Teslas, but they have done such a good job of cultivating that brand, right? Like, oh, well, rich people drive Teslas. Like, this is obviously the rich people brand. And so I just threw out like a Tesla. And she was like, okay, actually, how much is a Tesla? And I was like, I don't know, And so we looked it up. And we just did this 2-minute calculation, and we figured out that this random Tesla we had looked up online, it would have been $1,500 a month for this Tesla. So she's like, okay, let's reframe this a little bit. Like, you make more than $1,500 a month. You could have a Tesla. Like, you could be making a payment on a Tesla. You're not choosing that. Like, you're choosing kids' college savings and retirement savings and all these other things. But you could have that status symbol that in your mind is something only quote unquote rich people have. That was such an interesting reframe for me. And I don't know if that lands for you guys or if you've had anything similar, but I was like, that's interesting. And so I do like, for me, reframing some of those things as it is a choice. We all have choices where that time and energy and money goes. So that was a good one for me. My biggest one that I do, I say I do it every day. I mean, let's be honest. I try to do it every day. I get pretty close, but reality is reality. But my daily mindset practice, and for me, it's a bit of journaling, it has made the biggest difference for me of anything. So the way that I approach it, it's not a journal like I'm just going to dump what's on my brain and talk about everything I'm worried about and all of that kind of stuff. What it is for me is I sit down, and for about 15 minutes, I write, but I write from the point of view as if I've already achieved all of my goals. Mm-hmm. So it becomes like, oh, ever since I hit this income goal I wanted to hit, life has been great. I've been doing X, Y, and Z. And I really try to write from that point of view, like I'm already there. And I try to create the feelings of being there. I try to think about, okay, well, where is the money going now that I'm here? Or what am I doing with my extra free time now that I've hit this level where I don't have to work as many hours a week, And I really try to think through. And I find for me, not only does it really pump up my energy for the day, it also seems to do something unconscious in the back of my mind where suddenly my creativity is just geared in that direction all day long. Like I'm suddenly seeing new opportunities in random places, or I'm in the shower and a new idea pops up, driving down the road and a new idea pops up. And so your mind is sort of going towards that abundant mentality all day long because you're creating those feelings and you're priming the pump with that. And so I love that.
I love this idea because you're really stepping into like the reality of what it would be like to be in that place. I remember Katie and I were recording a podcast episode just before the new year that was released actually as our first episode, I think, of the new year, talking about goal setting. And Katie and I were discussing something about goals. And she goes, well, who do you need to show up as in order to live out that goal? Who do you need to be now in order to live out that goal? And I was listening to Amy Porterfield. I love her. I'm a huge fan. And she was also talking about goal setting as the podcast I was listening to earlier today. And who do you need to show up to be so that you can be actually living that to fruition? And that's exactly what you're talking about here. I'm like picking up on a theme.
Yeah. It's so awesome. True, right? Isn't that great?
That. So powerful.
And it is true too that like if you envision yourself as this future you, whatever it is, whether you're envisioning, I have 25 full fee clients every week and I take off 4 months or 4 weeks a year, 4 months, that'd be nice too.
Right, 4 months. Let's roll it.
Exactly. Why not? But whatever it is you're envisioning, how does that person carry herself? How does that person show up in the world differently than you do right now? And it's great to get to step into and imagine part of that and put your creativity really in that direction towards creating that instead of what my brain would rather do, which is like, oh my gosh, you should worry about this. Oh my God, you did a terrible job at that. Like our brains are more than happy to beat ourselves up all day long. We all know as therapists, we need to really consciously put them on a different path and in a different direction, or that just runs wild. So that's what I love. I do it in the morning. I encourage all of my clients to do it. They say they see big changes too, and it's fantastic.
That's great. I've read Think and Grow Rich, and I decided that each year I'm going to read Think and Grow Rich as the first book of the year. And Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talks about 6 steps, right? And so 6 steps is setting a date, setting an exact amount, creating your plan, talking about the desire, and then really feeling that. So I think a lot of times where we don't really push or we fail, I guess, if you will, is the affirmations don't work without the feeling. Like the feeling is the fuel that pushes it. And so really creating that question about who do you have to be right now? If for me, money is always freedom. And so if I can express to myself and feel freedom in the moment as I'm thinking about the money, that's what's going to drive it. For me, what I do, and I love your writing because I think it would add like the fresh idea for me. So what I do in the morning when I walk the dogs is I go through the 6 steps. And what I do is I actually look in the sky. And the reason I look in the sky is because the sky is so expansive. Like if I'm looking just down on the ground and the dogs, like thinking about myself or where I'm at is small and constrictive. So as I look up in the sky and I walk the dogs, I go through the process and I really feel that. And I feel myself expansive and bringing that joy. I remember coming home, the first weekend of the year, I was visiting family and I was on the plane and I was doing the exercise and I was so emotionally moved that I started crying because I just felt this extreme gratitude and really living life into this. And it just felt so amazing. So that constant practice. And what I'll say is when we talk about scarcity mindset, and you guys have probably heard me say it a million times, especially if you're one of our loyal listeners, is I talk a lot about my relationship with money. And that's something that I've had to overcome. And for me, it's been this really feels like long process, right? So really making that commitment and discipline to do it anyway, even when nothing's happening or feels like it's changing or shifting. It's hard to do it in the meantime, right? It's not like, okay, I'm going to do this for 1 week and boom, or I'm going to go on the weight loss diet and I'm going to lose 30 pounds in 1 week. It's hard to just hang in there.
You know what, though? It's so interesting. And I love your story about that feeling that you had being overwhelmed with gratitude, because there is a reframe in there as well. And if you ever listened to Brooke Castillo, the Life Coach School podcast, I had been doing this practice for a while. And then I listened to one of her podcasts where she talked about a very similar practice. But she was saying, of course, for her, the income goal was like 100 million or something. But she was like, every day, I create the energy and the feeling of already being there at this $100 million business. And she said, in a way, I've already achieved what I want, because what I want is not for the word, for the number 100 million in my bank account. I want the feeling of it. And so just by creating that joy and that feeling, she's like, I'm already there. I've gotten the joy.
That's the exact same person that Amy Porterfield was mentioning about this concept of talking about. That's so interesting. It's like coming up all over the place.
Yeah.
We should put the link for that in our show notes episode for sure.
We should. Yeah, they're both fantastic podcasters. They're great. So that's awesome. So here's another little thing you can do. And I love this one. And I try to encourage people to do it weekly. think of one small thing in your life that you could up level any given week that would make you feel like $1 million. And maybe it costs $1 and maybe it's free and maybe it's $5. This might be fresh flowers for your office. This might be, I give the example, it's silly, but it made such a difference in my mindset. Like the fancy tablecloths that you only take out on the holiday. Like everybody's got their like fancy holiday stuff. And so I was putting out some decorations and I had these like tablecloths and placemats and things like that. And I had this one that I typically only take out on Thanksgiving Day. And I was like, you know what? This sits in the cabinet all year. This is stupid. I'm just taking it out for the whole month. And I did. And of course the kids spilled food and yes, it got stained and yada, yada. It didn't matter. Every time I looked in the kitchen and walked into the kitchen, I was like, like it just made me happy. It's a silly little thing like that can just raise your vibe a little bit. And you're like, oh, look, I did something that, why does the fancy soap sit under the cabinet in the spare bathroom for like, just in case a guest comes? Why don't you use it? Put it in your bathroom, use the good stuff. One of my clients.
I gotta say, what is fancy soap anyway?
Okay.
I know what she's talking about.
That's so funny. One of my clients talked about how she's like, all I did was start paying an extra $1 more for the organic milk at the grocery store every week. She's like, I feel like such a boss. Like I have bought organic milk for my family. Look at me. Like it made a huge difference,
I love that you shared that because one of my money issues back in the day when I had so much scarcity mindset is I would want the steak salad, but the steak salad was $1 or $2 more, but I'd order the chicken because it was like, I felt so restrictive. I wouldn't get starved. Like it was awful. And interestingly enough, one of my goals this year is to eat completely organic. And so as I'm purchasing, I'm not worried about the total. I'm feeling the feeling of like, something organic, something organic.
Isn't that cool?
I don't care about the money anymore. And it's just like, And as I opened my fridge, I was like, oh, this is organic too. Yeah.
I love it. Isn't it funny though? Like the amount of time and energy we can spend. I remember I was at Target a couple months ago and I just, like those makeup organizers that just sit on your bathroom counter. I needed one. My makeup was everywhere, whatever. At Target, there was like a kind of ugly white plastic one. And then there was a pretty one that was glass and like gold. And they were like the glass one was $5 different. I stood in the stupid Target aisle being like, going back and forth. Like, should I really spend? Finally, I was like, this is so silly. Like, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look at the white plastic one every day and hate it. I finally bought the glass one and I look at it every day and like it. So it's little things like that. Like I freaked out over the $5 and we're just so in that habit. We don't even notice that we're doing it, right?
Totally.
It's so common. So what is one tiny thing that you can do for yourself that you can up level? Somebody said, I bought new office pillows, even though the other ones weren't like horrible yet. Like buying things a little bit before you need them. Stuff like that you're going to see it or like open your fridge and see the organic stuff and just be like get that little burst of joy. And I love things like that. It's exciting. Another way that I actually think of scarcity, I don't think it always has to be financial. I think you can also feel very abundant, even just learning new skills or learning something new. And the example for me is when I was starting my consulting business, I was 100% bootstrapping. I was like, I'm not going to take money out of our limited family budget on a wing and a prayer about this consulting business. I was going to teach myself how to do the website and teach myself how to do the email system and all these things that in my mind, I had always said, I'm too old, I can't learn technology, blah, blah, blah. Well, I did it. I taught myself these things. I felt so empowered. Like that made me feel like, oh, I can do anything now. Like I can build a website. Well, then I can start anything I want in the world. So it felt super abundant just to sit down and bootstrap and learn that new skill. So that's always an exciting one too. And if you're really feeling like, listen, I don't have money to go buy the organic milk, but I could sit down and just watch YouTube videos all day about how to do this thing that I want to learn how to do, you're going to feel amazing at the end of that. That's huge. I also really believe in giving away what is feeling scarce to you. So if you're feeling like you have no time, go volunteer somewhere. If you're feeling like you have no money, go make a little donation somewhere. Do something so that you can prove to yourself, yet again, that the universe is abundant, that you will be taken care of, that you won't fall off the planet and die, that everything's going to keep on spinning. So give away the things that you feel most scarce about. And obviously be smart about it, of course, but even just giving that little $5 donation somewhere can feel like $1 million to you because you're doing it. You're giving that away, even though you're feeling strapped this week or whatnot. So those are a lot of my techniques. Gratitude, of course, we all know the gratitude list goes a very long way. But those are a lot of the techniques that really work well for myself, for my clients in overcoming this mindset stuff. And people just shoot forward when they really, really focus and work on the mindset stuff, which you guys know because you're doing it. It makes a huge difference.
That's totally one of the things that I've implemented, Katie, is when I've felt scarce with money, as I've learned to give, and it shifts the feeling like immediately. It's your contribution, your gratitude, and just being able to do that. So it does feel really awesome. And I know I shared on our last podcast about, for me and my journey of money mindset is really following the profit first system in our business. So that's for business. And then I follow another system personally. And that has really allowed me the freedom. And I'm a systems geek. If I was good with like computers and stuff, I could be an engineer, but I'm not. But I love systems. And what's beautiful about systems and guidelines and a discipline, it's just, this is how you do it and it gets results and you don't have to think about it. So what that's allowed me to do is really have the freedom to give. And I also have part of that money system is there's a play jar. And before I had a play jar, I was very tight around, like you said, like buying things, or I could save, but for what? And so I remember the first time I put money in the play jar, and the rules on the play jar are that you have to blow it at least every quarter. You can't save it. If it's going to savings, it doesn't, you have to blow it. So I remember I had $300. So ironically, I'm at TJ Maxx. So there was these Donald Kleiner shoes, and I never bought Donald Kleiner shoes, and at TJ Maxx they're on a discount, but whatever. And they're like $85. I'll buy sneakers that are $100 whatever because I like comfort, but not shoes. And I was like, but wait, my only rules, I have to blow this $300. So if I bought a $300 pair of shoes, whatever. And it was just really so liberating. And now, actually last week, I took myself, my spouse, and two of our friends. I paid for the show. I'm paying for my friend for her birthday for a show. And it's just really exciting to be able to do that because it brings me such joy, but at the same time, there's such freedom. So I love that you say whatever you're scared about, just go ahead and do that anyway. If you're afraid about money or if you're afraid about time or whatever, just do it anyway because you get over yourself.
Yep. It's so true. And I think if there's any major takeaway for people, it would be, this is very much like brushing your teeth. And like Katie, you said, it doesn't stop. It doesn't end. You don't come to that point where you're like, oh, I'm better now. Everything's fine. I just feel abundant all the time walking around. We don't get to that point. As you grow, as your business grows and your income grows, you're just going to hit a few more demons, a few bigger demons, a few more little messages running around the back. And inevitably, I find the people that I work with will check in and they'll go, oh my God, it's been such a bad week and just nothing's going my way. Okay, when's the last time you did some mindset work? I don't know, last Tuesday. It's amazing how quickly you can just fall back into those old patterns because, like I said before, our brains are always at the ready to either beat us up or tell us that we should be worried about everything on earth or whatever it is that your particular brain does to throw you off track for the day. It's always ready. It's always willing. It's always trying to protect you by throwing that stuff out. And so it does seriously take that daily effort. You can't do this for a few days and be like, it didn't really work at the end. You have to make a commitment to it. And if 2019 is that year for you, that you really do want to level up your life, your income, all these things, well, you've got several months left this year. What if you made a commitment starting today? What might be different for you by the end of this year?
And who do you need to be?
Exactly.
There it is.
I love it.
So I'm feeling because my business partner and I, we share one mind. I feel like this podcast series has not only been for you, Startup Nation, but also Kate. You've heard her share a little bit about her stories and what she's struggling with. So Kate, I really hope that you just received everything that you needed to receive as we
I got it,
today.
girl. I got it all. Yep, I got it all. I received all the mindset stuff, all the abundance, all the love. I received it, and I hope Startup Nation, you guys are receiving these messages too, because no matter how much work you do on it, every time you up level, every time you expand into a new area of business or grow your practice or step out of your comfort zone, these issues come back up. It's never totally cured. It's never totally gone. So to have this focus for the month of March be the Mindset March series, it's just been perfect timing. So Katie, thank you for being here for this.
Thank you.
Trifecta of the Katies was so fun. We definitely will have to do this again. You're just like a burst of energy and passion, and I loved hearing everything that you had to say. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. It was exciting for me too. It was awesome.
Yes. And so Katie talked about scarcity mindset. What is it? Ways to overcome it. She gave some awesome little ninja tips on daily practices, what you can do really immediately, and also how you can incorporate it in a daily practice. So again, not only listen to this podcast, but just take one thing. If you just implemented one thing that we talked about today, how would your life be different? Don't overwhelm yourself. Just do one thing. Make it small, make it simple, make it super easy. Startup Nation Superheroes, it is our pleasure and our honor to serve you. And this is one of the ways we do it through our podcast. We hope that you join us next week as we get to talk with Beth Medina on avoidance to action. And we're going to be talking about brain spotting. So this is something I don't know about, but I've been hearing about. So I'm super excited as we dive into this topic. If you want to hang out with us, join us in Facebook. Just look for the Private Practice Startup. Ask to be part of our group. We will see you there. Also, I almost forgot, but Katie does have a giveaway for you guys. It's the 5 tools you need right now to overcome a scarcity mindset and up-level your income and your life. You can grab that at katiereedkatiewright.com/scarcity/. And we can also put that on our show notes page, so you don't have to remember that. Just go there and grab it. We're there to serve you and make things easy for you in your private practice journey in your life. So Startup Nation, thank you for joining us. We can't wait to hear how your mindset has evolved over these last 4 episodes and really bringing so much value to you. So as always, thank you for allowing us, our true, genuine gratitude for you, for allowing us to inspire you from startup to mastery. Have a fantastic, amazing, and magical day. Take care.
See you next time.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.